Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunshine Soap and Candle Company. I'm really excited today because I'm going to be sharing something with you that I haven't shared with you yet. So over the years, I've gotten a lot of questions and requests from you all to share with you how to make a pillar style candle or a candle that you pop out of a mold and burn. And usually my response to those questions is that's something that I used to do a really long time ago, probably about 20 years ago now. That's something that I used to do, and actually I stopped making those and creating those because they sort of went out of fashion at that time, and I wanted to make sure I was making things that were selling. So I switched 100% over to container style candles, and I never really revisited the pillar candles, but now they're sort of back in fashion. They have been for a little while, and I do continue to get requests on how to make them. So today I'm going to be sharing with you how to make a few different styles of pillar type candles. I'll be going over my full tutorial and DIY on how to do this. I'm actually also going to be placing everything, the recipe and what I've used down below in the description box for you so you can recreate these exact candles if you like. And I'm also going to be writing up the full written detailed step-by-step tutorial along with the recipe and percentages so you can scale up or down as you like, and I'll be publishing that over on my Patreon campaign. I'll put the link to my campaign in the description box below for you as well, and I hope that you check it out. If you haven't had a chance to check out my campaign yet, what are you waiting for? There is so much to take advantage of over there. Just at the $5 level, there are hundreds of recipes and tutorials for you to take a look at and take advantage of. There are thousands of other makers over there for you to connect with. It's also a great way to connect with me, and I really hope that you'll make this month your month to come on over, check it out. I'm a crowd-funded content creator, so your contribution really helps me to continue doing what I'm doing and bring you these weekly tutorials. Also, there's an incentive upon sign up. You still are getting coupon codes to makesy.com and onlinelabels.com, making your sign up really well worth it. All right, let's make some candles. All right, the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and wick these molds that we're using. So we're using these cute little textured silicone molds, and they come out with a bubble pattern on your candle. It's super cute, and they're pretty small. This one is a gigantic pillar-sized candle. We're not going to be filling it all the way to the top, so I'll go ahead and show you what we're doing here. So we are going to be using the CDN series wicks with the Pillar of Bliss wax. I found this to be the best combination of wicks and wax for this style of candle. So we're going to go ahead and place a CDN size 2 wick into this very small one. Now I know there's different ways to go about wicking your pillars, but actually, this is the way that I've always done it, and you can get wick pins and things like that, but I like doing this because I like the way the wax forms around the wick. So what I've done here is poked a little hole through this silicone mold, and with like a safety pin just into the center. This will be the bottom of this wick, actually. It's a little bit hard to see, but once you get it pushed through there, it's pretty easy to thread it. So I'm just going to pull it through. Now we're not going to need this wick tab, so all I'm going to do is just take some scissors and cut off the wick tab. You won't need it. This is going to be the actual top of your candle, and this is going to be the bottom of your candle. So it has a bubble texture on the inside. So all you're going to do is pull it down taut like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and place a CDN 4 into the bigger one. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is place a little sticky tack onto here just to kind of plug up the hole. I really don't think in these silicone molds that it will leak out, but I'm not going to take my chances. I've also used hot glue on the outsides of these, and hot glue works great on this kind, but we're just going to use a little bit of sticky tack and just get it straight over the wick and just get it plugged up. That way, if for some reason it starts to leak through the hole, it won't, because now we've plugged it up with a little sticky tack. You can put it down and kind of press as well and just get it nice and plugged up. Same thing for this one. I'm going to go ahead and set these two aside, and we're going to go ahead and wick the next one. So this is a bit unconventional what I've done with this one, and I'm going to explain to you why. So I did purchase some wicking for this, but the wicking that I bought is too big. Almost, it looks like a rope. I'll show it to you. This is the wicking that I purchased for it, SB6, and actually the way that the candle burns is way too hot and fast, and so the flames were getting too big. So I switched over to the CDN8 wicks just to test this for size. I need to find something on a spool that's like this. I've tied together 3 of the CDN8 wicks. Now, not to worry, I'm not going to be burning the candle through the knots, because I'm only going to be pouring the candle up to about the first knot. Because this is so large, we really don't need to fill it all the way up, you know, unless you really wanted to. And I'm going to go in upside down. Usually you would thread it through this way and pull it up, but my knots aren't going to fit through. I wouldn't burn, or I mean, actually wouldn't sell a candle with the knots in it like this and pour it all the way up. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. I think those knots will compromise the way that it burns if you try to use this, but I'm really just wanting to show you size-wise what we're looking for, and I'm not going to be pouring the candle over the top of the knots. I'm pretty much going to be stopping at the knots, at the first knot. So I'm just threading this through. Okay. And then putting a little sticky tack on this. We're just going to cover this up. The sticky tack works really good on this metal mold. Just a little bit more. Just making sure you seal that hole up really well. If you're using a wick pen, you still would put the sticky tack or something on the bottom. But the wick does not pull through. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and place my wick bars across the top. I'm making this as center as possible. And there we go. Set that one aside. And then we're just going to do the same for the other two. We're going to go ahead and place the wick bars. Make them as center as possible. These like to move around. They're a little bit jiggly. So you just want to make sure it's center before you pour that wax in there. Okay, setting this aside. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and weigh off the wax needed for this project. All right, so we, like I mentioned earlier, are going to be using Pillar of Bliss wax. I know I said a minute ago I'm only using 13 ounces of wax for that big pillar, but actually I'm using 32 ounces of wax for the big pillar and 13 ounces of wax combined for the 2 smaller bubble molds. So we're going to be weighing off a total of 40.5 ounces of wax. This is 90% of our recipe. So I've got a whole bunch of Pillar of Bliss wax down here, so I'm just scooping it in. Okay. Now that we have the wax weighed off, we're going to go ahead and heat this up to 200 degrees and get it all melted down, and I'll bring you back for the next step. So while my wax is melting over there, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the wax choice. So this is Pillar of Bliss. It comes from Nature's Garden, and Pillar of Bliss is a paraffin and soy blended wax that is made specifically for candles that pop out of molds or wax melts. So anything that you pop out of a mold, this is a really great wax to use. Just wanted to pop in here real quick and let you know that you cannot use any wax in a candle mold. If I was to use a container blend wax in this mold, you would have an extremely hard time getting it out of the mold because it's a much softer wax. Container blended waxes are made softer so that they adhere to the sides of the glass that you're pouring it into or the vessel that you're pouring it into. And so it's also going to do the same thing in a mold. It's going to try to adhere to the edges. It's a softer wax. You will have a really hard time popping it out. But then worst of all, even if you do manage to get it popped out, like if you pop it in the freezer for a little bit and then you pull it out and pop it out of the mold, it will not burn correctly. So the way that a candle burns, a pillar candle burns if it's got container wax instead of, wax that's made for molds, it will go, the candle will splay out. So when you burn a pillar style candle, you want your candle to burn inwards, down, and inwards. So as it's burning, it's just kind of creating a little shell all the way down until it gets down to the bottom. If you're using a wax that's too soft, it's going to splay out. Your edges are going to splay out like this, and eventually your wax will just start dripping down the sides and make a huge mess. So with a pillar style candle, it's very important that you're using the correct wax, a wax that's hard enough to burn properly. I don't have an example of a wrong way of what that looks like, but it basically just flattens out and like splays out the top of the candle instead of going in and down. But I will show you a test burn of what it's supposed to look like at the end of this video. All right, our wax is melted down to 200 degrees. And what I'm gonna do next is go ahead and just add in my fragrance oil. So today I'm gonna be using this really nice bitter peach and sweet amber. This will be perfect for the spring and summer. This smells so good. This is by Makesy, and it smells really good in a wax melt, which is the same wax that I use for the Pillar of Bliss is the same that I use for wax melts, and I've also burnt this in pillar style candles, and it does smell really good. It's got that top juicy peach note, but it smells almost a little bit balsamic. It's really clean and not too overly sweet. I am a Makesy affiliate, by the way. If you decide you want to purchase that fragrance or anything else from Makesy, you can find my affiliate link in the description box below. It does help me out when you use it. All right, so we are going to go ahead and pour off 4.5 ounces, that's a 10% fragrance load, of the bitter peach and sweet amber. Again, right at the wax, that's around 200 degrees now, Fahrenheit. So my wax is 90% of the recipe and my fragrance is 10% of the recipe. We're gonna give that a good stir. It smells so good. I love this fragrance. Now I'm just going to take 1 drop of this candle dye. This is Coral Liquid Candle Dye by Sierra Candles. I just want a really light kind of peach color. So I'm just going to do 1 drop to this whole 45 ounces batch and give it a stir. I don't want it to look too orange. I just want it to be a nice kind of light corally color. And that's what we're doing. Now I'm going to allow this wax to cool just a little bit. Let me see where we're at now. Oh, we're pretty good actually. We're sitting right around 180. It's just you don't want to pour it too hot into this type of mold, because the hotter it is, the longer it takes to set up and the more chance you have of that wax leaking out of that little hole. So if you wait a little bit till it's cool, your results are a little bit more consistent. Still sometimes can get a little bit of leakage, using this method. A wick pin method, you probably still can get leakage using a wick pin, but I would imagine that the wick coming through the hole down here is probably a little bit more problematic. So we're going to go ahead and pour. Now, like I said earlier, I have tied these wicks together. This is the CDN 8 because the CDN series burns really well with this wax until I can find a wick on a spool that is like this. Right now I'm just tying this together to show you an option for you and how these burn. Again, we're not filling this all the way up because I don't think that it is going to compromise the burn of this candle if we fill it all the way up and then you burn the candle and it gets to those knots in the wicks. I think that would definitely compromise the way things burn. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill it up to just over that first knot. Actually, I'm probably going to stop a little bit short because I want to make sure that I definitely have enough wax to top this off, because this candle, we're going to get a large kind of sinkhole or shrinkage just because the wax does contract a lot as it cools. So I'm going to make sure I reserve a little bit of wax left over to fill that space after it sinks. And I'll show that to you as it cools. Okay, so then we're just going to go ahead and fill the rest up. Just filling this little, making sure this is now center. It likes to jiggle around a little bit. These are such cute little candles when they come out. I'm pleased with how they look. These style molds, the little bubble ones and the different shapes and the silicone are really popular right now. The cube ones are especially cute. I need to pick up some of the cube ones that have like a bubble texture on the outside. I'm really liking those as well. Okay, that's going to be the bottom of the candle. And now to the last one here, just making sure my wick is nice and center. And pouring. All right, my wax is now ready to go ahead and pour over this. And we're just gonna go ahead and fill in that sinkhole. I've melted it down, it's about 175 degrees. We're just pouring in the reserved wax to fill in that sinkhole. And there we go. It doesn't have to be perfect because once we unmold it, I'll show you the base of this when we unmold it. It's kind of easier to not make it go all the way up to the top just because it provides this lip for the candle to sit on its edges stable. And I'll show you that when we go ahead and unmold it. So that's it, and tomorrow we'll go ahead and unmold this and I'll show you a test burn. All right, it's the next day and we are ready to go ahead and unmold these candles. Let's go ahead and start with the small ones first. I think the color turned out really nice so far. So I already did take the sticky tack off. A little hot glue again around that seal would also work. Maybe even a little bit, sticks a little bit better than the sticky tack. So we're just gonna peel this away and peel it all the way off. I'm being careful to take this off as straight up as I possibly can. Sometimes if you pull it in any one direction, it will pull some of the wax off and compromise the design. So I'm just trying to go as evenly as possible around. Okay. And there we go. Is that so cute? Super cute. Some of the little bubbles did pop off. You just have to be careful when you're unmolding it to just try to go as evenly as possible around. So we're just going to go ahead and trim the bottom of this wick off. This is the bottom of the candle. And there you go, a cute little molded candle. On to the second one. Takes a little bit of muscle. Flipping this inside out. And there we go. Isn't that so cute? They're super cute. Okay, there's those. Now for the larger one. These are, to me, are a little bit easier to unmold. I did already take the sticky tack off of this as well. So you just have to like turn it upside down and the weight of it just starts to allow it to slide out of the mold, and there you go. So there's that. I'm just going to go ahead and trim this bottom piece. There we go. That's what the bottom of it looks like after I filled in the cavity there. So just kind of evening this part out so that it sits flat. And there's a little bit of sticky tack on this wick, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that out, clean that off, and then we'll be back to do a little test burn. All right, we're ready to go ahead and light these, and I have it sitting on a plate here just to catch any possible drippings. I have never had dripping issues with this one in previous batches or this one. However, full transparency, I have had issues with this one, and I think it's the way that the candle is constructed. So you see how this one is a little bit wider around the top? This one is a little bit thinner or smaller in circumference around the top, and so when the wax pool gets to the edges here, it kind of heats up the little crevices in here, and then it can create little holes where it gets thinner, and then the wax drips down. So that didn't happen right away. It actually took several hours of burning, and this one might just have a maximum burn time, but for that reason, this might not be the best one to sell, just because you can't assume that your customers are going to follow the directions on burn time, and you just want to make sure that your candle can go keep on burning and not have those issues dripping down or melting through. So we're going to go ahead and give these a light. I just love the color of these. All right, and then I'll be back with some progress updates on how these are burning. All right, here is the 2-hour mark. They're all burning really nicely. I especially like the way that these two are burning. We'll have to see how this one develops, but right now it's staying, the wax is staying where it should. And they smell really good. All right, we are about 4 hours into the burn here, and things are looking pretty good, except for this little candle, like we discussed earlier, is starting to leak. And I'll turn it so you can see. It just warms up these little spaces here and melts it, and then the wax leaks out. So I'm gonna go ahead and burn this one out just so that we don't totally lose this candle, and continue on with the other two. Okay, it's been about 6 hours, and I just wanted to update you on how these are burning. As you can see, this one is burning the way I mentioned in the beginning of the video, where you want it to burn inwards but also down, so the wax stays contained inside the candle. So since this has been going for quite some time now, we're just going to extinguish that one, and I'm going to let that one go till it's closer to the edges of the candle, and I'll show you that at the end of the day. All right, everyone, this is the final update. This candle has been burning now for roughly 10 hours, and it's looking really good. It's time to go ahead and put this candle out. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please remember to leave me some comments and questions, give this video a thumbs up, and why not subscribe to my channel. All right, everyone, catch you on the next video. Bye, keep shining.